Hello, this is Dave Sugarbaker, and the date is February 19th, 2023. We just had Valentine's Day. I'm going to share a very familiar quotation from Paul. This is from 1 Corinthians. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It keeps no score of wrongs, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of them all is love. So we've observed Valentine's Day this last week, and I thought it might be appropriate to share some memories of the more than 4,000 weddings that I've conducted in the course of my ministry. Almost all of the weddings took place during my tenure at Northbrae Community Church in Berkeley, California. One of my best stories is this. It was Christmas Eve around 6 o'clock. We had at Northbrae 2 Christmas Eve services. One was a family Christmas Eve service at 7 o'clock in the evening, and the other one was at 11 p.m. It was a candlelight Christmas Eve service. The early service was for families with kids who couldn't stay up that late at night to go to the 11 o'clock. And it included, the family service at 7 included our annual Christmas pageant, including lots of shepherds and lots of angels. My primary involvement in the first service was to read The Night Before Christmas with the youngest ones. So I was in my office at 6 p.m. and I was getting ready for the 2 services. My door was open. It usually would be open unless I was consulting with someone. And 7-year-old Megan walked in. Megan's mother, Susan, was in another room down the hall getting ready for the pageant. Megan had not been in my office before, and I greeted her as she looked around. And she focused on the bulletin board in my office. It was maybe 6 feet wide by 4 feet tall, filled with pictures of brides or brides and grooms, usually with me standing next to them in my big black robe. Megan pointed to the pictures on my bulletin board. Who are they? Now, I did not choose my words well. And I said to Megan, those are some of the people I've married, Meg. She looked for a moment. You could almost see the wheels turning in her head, trying to figure this out. And finally the penny dropped and she had it figured out. And she turned to me and she said, but Elaine is the one you kept. I love that story. Half or more of the 4,000 plus weddings that I officiated at were in the chapel at Northbrae Church. The rest were in hotels in Berkeley or in San Francisco, or they might have been in some indoor or outdoor venue at the University of California. One memorable one was one Saturday afternoon when about 300 feet away from where we were for this wedding, the Grateful Dead were holding a concert. And we couldn't hear each other think, and so we had to wait for the band to take a break. And during their 10-minute or 15-minute break during the concert, we were able to do the wedding. Or the wedding might take place in Golden Gate Park or other area parks, or in groves of giant redwoods that tend to grow in a big, majestic circle, or on boats in San Francisco Bay, or in historic buildings or homes up and down the East Bay or the peninsula. I've done weddings at the chapel at Yosemite National Park. I've done weddings at Napa Valley wineries. And in one case, I did a wedding on a small lighthouse island in the middle of the bay. At one wedding, on a beach south of Half Moon Bay, where the elephant seals come ashore to mate, the wedding couple and a dozen of their friends and family gathered in a circle just above the surf line, but one guest was designated as a lookout. And it was agreed that if a bull elephant seal, that would be about 1,500 pounds or better, would come up out of the surf toward us, this guest was the one who was going to sound the alarm, and then we would pause the wedding ceremony and run up the beach out of harm's way. It didn't happen. We got through the wedding just fine. No elephant seals appeared. The weddings varied in size, tremendously varied, from 700 of the bride's and groom's closest friends, and on the other hand, maybe the couple and 2 of their witnesses, period. Back in the 70s, the hosts of some home weddings in the Berkeley Hills would point out to me, the minister, after the wedding, as the food was being brought out to be served to the guests in the home, they would point out to me which brownies were high octane and which brownies were regular. That was always a help. Some ministers dislike doing weddings. Maybe it's dealing with all of the emotions of the wedding couple and their families. It's sometimes a struggle to keep everybody organized and headed in the same direction. Sometimes it's like herding cats. But for me, the significant time came weeks before the wedding, when I sat down with each couple I was to marry and talked through all of the nuts and bolts of the ceremony, anything any of the 3 of us could think of to ask and be clarified about. And then the second agenda item on my books was to get to know them at least a little in the context of the celebration of their relationship. Cumulatively, these couples taught me a lot. A wedding isn't the beginning of a marriage relationship, and it's certainly not the end. It's an ongoing process. One of the quotes I shared with couples who were compiling their wedding ceremony was from Anne Morrow Lindbergh, from her book, Gifts from the Sea. And she wrote, "A good relationship has a pattern like a dance and is built on some of the same rules. The partners do not need to hold on tightly because they move confidently in the same pattern, intricate but gay and swift and free like a country dance of Mozart's. To touch heavily would be to arrest the pattern and freeze the movement, to check the endlessly changing beauty of its unfolding. There's no place here for the possessive clutch, the clinging arm, the heavy hand. Only the barest touch in passing. Now arm in arm, now face to face, now back to back. It does not matter which, because they know they are partners moving to the same rhythm, creating a pattern together and being invisibly nourished by it." I like that one. Why did I do so many weddings? Well, I felt it was a part of my ministry, and I was good at it. I saw those young couples at a turning point in their lives, and I was able to help some of them find some tools which might help them grow together. And for others, I could help them create a positive celebration that they could build on and build from. Sometimes I could see manifestations of the love so often referred to in the wedding ceremonies, Paul talked about it in one of the most luminescent chapters in all of his writing. And we teach in the church, we teach people to look for love, because where love is, God is. I learned to look past the stress, and I helped people focus on what was really important, to look to life and love as crucially important in our human experience. How did I officiate at 4,000 plus weddings and not have it ever get old? By focusing on each unique relationship and helping everybody there say, thank God for it. There are some things, though, that I could do without. I don't really care if I ever hear we've only just begun again, ever. On the other hand, Paul Stuckey's wedding song just doesn't get old. He is now to be among you at the calling of your hearts. Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poem never got old for me. I still love it. And this is what she writes. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach, when feeling out of sight for the ends of being and ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need, by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely, as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with a love I seemed to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. And if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. Wow. God bless you. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me. If you find value here, I'd appreciate it if you'd share it. Thanks. Take care.